Yo, what's going on, people? So I just got done watching the Scott Pilgrim Takes Off anime that's on Netflix, and spoiler alert, I'm pretty disappointed, but not for the reason you think. So I'm pretty much about to get into the details of this particular story, so if you have not seen it, pause the video, go watch it, come back, and let's discuss, alright? So when I first started watching the anime, I was like, oh, okay, I know this, I know that, blah, blah, blah. And it was very familiar, right? But then 2-3 major twists and everything has changed. Now, typically that's not completely bad because, you know, it's a different story, a different medium, whatever. So you kind of want it to be at least a little bit different than what's already been done. So the audience is going to be, you know, interested still. But this was way off. They took Scott out of the freaking show for half the show, for over half the show, right? Because I think he didn't come back until like the end of episode 6 or episode 7, which is ridiculous. Really, really ridiculous. For a show to be named Scott Pilgrim and Scott Pilgrim not be in the show. I have no idea what they were thinking, right? And then it was like the fights were off, the tone of the dialogue was kind of off. It had like this stale feeling to it, but for it to be that way for most of the show, that was intentional. So it was a particular style that they were going for, and it wasn't completely bad, but it wasn't what I was expecting. The vibe was just completely different from what I expected. But as far and for me, with all of those things taken into account, this show it really just wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. The best episode was the last episode. Seeing everybody come together, fighting the big boss, that was dope. And it really just upset me even more because the more I watched the show and got a full grasp of what they were going for, the more it bothered me because of how much potential the show has, that season had, right? But it was just kind of all over the place. And maybe they had time constraints or something. I don't know, or maybe I'm just an alien and I have these weird ideas. But to me, I have a really good way to take many of these different plot points, rearrange them, and make it into a much better show. So the main thing that I would start to change would be the fact that Scott is barely in the freaking series. Right, he's barely in this season. Like he's in there for 3 episodes maybe. So what I would do is in this season he's kidnapped. Come to find out he's in a completely different time. He's like 10, 20 years, maybe 15 years into the future. Yeah, like 14, 15 years into the future. So what I would do is I would basically have it to where it would be a dual. I don't know the technical term for it. So I don't know what the technical term is for this particular way of writing or whatever. But it basically would be where it's 2 main storylines. They're connected to each other, but they're in different areas, right? So you got the Ramona storyline, and then you got the Scott storyline. And the goal is for them to basically get back together. And what you would have is where it's like, okay, you find out in episode 2 that Scott is in the future, right? So you reveal that early on instead of, talking about it in episode 7, I believe. You reveal it in episode 2. But then you have Scott journeying around trying to find the truth, and you have this mysterious figure basically trying to stop him, right? So he's constantly getting in his way. Scott is trying to find the evil exes or whatever, He's finding his old crew, connecting with them, trying to piece together what happened. Meanwhile, Ramona in present day is trying to find Scott. So she's going around to all of the different evil exes and so on and so forth, gaining more information on them, while Scott is also gaining more information on them in the future, right? So it's like you got this like very interesting situation where, say, Ramona is going after Lucas Lee and Scott is going after Lucas Lee, but in different times, and they're trying to find out what the hell is going on. Like, did Lucas Lee participate in this? And Scott is like, did Lucas Lee send me to the future? And they're both trying to solve the mystery. And then at the end of the episode, they both come to the conclusion that particular evil ex had nothing to do with it, right? So that would be one big thing that I would do, is I would change the fact that Scott isn't in it, give it two different storylines, and have it to where Ramona and Scott are investigating the same people in that particular episode, but in different time zones. That by itself, in my mind, would have made it way better, right? And it's just, I hate that they didn't do that, And then, of course, later on, once you get down to like the last few exes, maybe you could rule out Gideon kind of early on, or no, save him for like the very last. Like, basically, Gideon and the twins would be left. Basically, because of the way the twins work in the story, it would make sense for them to be the ones to pick him up last. Like, oh no, or he opens a door, he looks behind him, and the twins catch him off guard. And you pretty much know that it's the twins because it's two figures, two shadowy figures or whatever. So then Ramona is investigating the twins, and she finds out something, and maybe you don't see Scott for one episode, but then so like, say it's episode 6, you don't see him for most of that episode until the end, and Ramona's like, I figured it out, it's the twins. And then Scott knocks on the door. Yeah, it's the twins, but it's not what you think. Dun dun dun. And then it turns into something cool, and it's like, hey, actually the twins were a part of it, but they were helping me or something. I forget how it go, but they were helping me from the future. But then me from the future is a butthole. You know what I'm saying? So it would have been so much better to reveal it all in that way. So that is what I would change about the show. It would make it more mysterious. It would you would still have action in there, because Scott would probably have to fight some of the evil exes in the future, or the people that's trying to stop him from getting where he needs to be. And because of the character development and stuff like that that's going on, it would make more sense for all of the evil exes to join forces at the end, like somehow string it together, because it felt kind of off to me. It was like this dope moment where you had all of these evil exes coming together, but it was just a cool moment, with not enough nutrition or energy behind it or meaning behind it. If perhaps future Scott had derailed so many lives and we found this out, then he would be like the true villain. But do we want future Scott to be the true villain? Because the way that they portrayed him, he was like sort of a villain, but he wasn't a villain. It was sort of a weird one. So it really depends on how they would even want future Scott to be portrayed, or who he is as a character. He seemed like he just made some weird mistakes or whatever, and it just didn't go well. But to make him like a true villain, mystery and all this other stuff, I think they would have had to make him a bad guy, but that would have really made it more interesting to me. You know, you bring in new characters in the future timeline, and then in the present timeline, you get to know the other characters more deeply. That's what I would do. Just seeing the different puzzle pieces of this particular story, it just bothered me to see how much was left on the table. But as I said, it really depends on the way, the direction that they're going with the series and the story. But I think my idea would make it a blockbuster anime. If you agree with me, if you believe that my idea was amazing, hit a brother up. You know what I'm saying? You know, leave it down in the comment section. Send it over to them and you know, tell them to hire me and bring sandwiches. I want a turkey firehouse sub ready for me. You know what I'm saying? With some cherry limeade. Yeah, that's the core of what I wanted to say in that particular area. But honestly, there's something else that really stood out to me, but it really deserves its own video. I don't know if I'm gonna do it tonight. I'm kind of sleepy. It's 2 a.m. right now. I just felt like I needed to record this, you know, now, and I'll edit it later, but I was like, yo, I need to get this out of my system. You know what I'm saying? I can't wait. If I wait, the energy might go away. So, and that makes me feel like I need to do the next one too. Anyway, if you agree, if you have a different take on this situation, let a brother know. Comment down below. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that other good stuff. And have a good one.